Good evening, Simon. It would seem that everyone seems to agree that the showdown between Donald Trump and the Democrats over the wall is what is going to dominate the State of the Union address.
I think that's right, Vuyo. I mean, the White House insists that Donald Trump is going to Capitol Hill in a few hours' time, urging unity among America's various polarized political forces. But the White House also says that he's going to be going to Capitol Hill, saying that Democrats need still to give him $5.7 billion to build that wall along the U.S. border with Mexico. Indeed, he took to Twitter a short time ago to suggest that if he doesn't get the money, he might even propose building a human wall. I'm not quite sure what that means, whether he envisages millions of Americans linking hands along the U.S. border with Mexico was unclear from the message that he published on Twitter, but he's very determined still that he's going to get the money to build the wall. So one of the questions tonight as we watch the speech will be, does he once again challenge the Democrats to get behind him and give talks up on Capitol Hill that he's now described as a waste of time, more time, or does he go full throttle and declare a national state of emergency that would theoretically allow him to divert money from other projects to building that wall? He then wouldn't need congressional approval, but he would face substantial legal challenges if he took that course of action. So that's one of the things that we're going to be watching for tonight here.
Who do you think is, given that the Democrats will, of course, be responding to his address, who do you think is likely to blink first, if at all?
Look, I mean, Donald Trump already blinked first, didn't he, with that 35-day government shutdown. He said he wouldn't reopen the government unless he got money to build the wall. He reopened it, having not secured a single dollar to build the wall. So this process that's taking place, and there could be another government shutdown in the middle of February if the standoff continues, is not a process that is going to yield him the money that he wants to spend building the wall. And the Democrats fervently believe that they are politically winning this. Last week there was a poll that showed 56% of the electorate, 56%, Vuyo, say they definitely will not vote for President Trump in next year's presidential election, November 2020. That's an enormous hurdle for the president to be facing midway through what he hopes still will just be his first term in office.
Well, of course, Simon Marks, there's a lot that Americans would want him to talk about around their own health system, taxes, and so on. But for people like us who are far removed from it all, will be keen to know whether his attitude towards China, in particular, has mellowed or changed over the last while, which is, of course, something that eventually affects us, because it affects the world's economy, and in particular vulnerable economies like ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth making the point, Vuyo, that at a time when President Trump is constrained politically here by the woman who will literally be over his shoulder when he makes that speech tonight, Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat who's now the Speaker of the House of Representatives, it is in the area of foreign policy where he's got a bit more latitude to get some things done. So it will be very interesting to see what he says about the future of the trade war between the United States and China. Negotiations still underway, trying to bring those sides closer together to get past it. We're also looking to see what he says about North Korea. Will he use this speech here tonight as an opportunity to announce a date and location for his next summit meeting with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, even though within the last few hours the United Nations has challenged President Trump's claim that he's making tremendous progress in his denuclearization negotiations with North Korea. The UN says, as far as it can see, North Korea is doing everything it can to protect its nuclear arsenal. Nonetheless, we think that next summit meeting could take place in a few weeks' time in Vietnam. Will the president announce it tonight? And finally, what will he say about the future of a US military presence in Syria, Afghanistan and Iraq? That's another area that we're going to be listening closely for.
Simon Marks, our U.S. correspondent, ahead of Donald Trump's State of the Union address.